Hey everybody, how you doing? Scripture, Proverbs 13:2 says, "From the fruit of their lips, people enjoy good things, but the unfaithful have an appetite for violence." I think that scripture applies directly to Fox News host Tucker Carlson. That's right. Carlson comes out, and you have to say something, folks. Long time ago, like 20 years, I had a great deal of respect for Tucker, who comes from the Bay Area, as do I, but that's long gone. In particular, because this week, Tucker comes out and supports the actions of 17-year-old white male Kyle Rittenhouse, who brandishes an AK-47 or some type of automatic, kills at least a couple of people, or he shoots one and hurts the other, and then is seen on video walking down the street in Wisconsin, flagging down, that's right, flagging down Wisconsin Kenosha police who are in armored vehicles. Nobody bothers to stop him, even as people are pointing and saying that he was the person who shot at protesters. It was a wacko scene. Absolutely wacko. So what does Tucker do? Does he call for any type of program or operation or event that would bring the people of the United States together? No. He does the reverse thing, apparently trying to assist the president in dividing the country. Proverbs 13:2. Proverbs 13:2. We were once a nation truly under God, but Tucker's actions prove that not only are we not a nation under God anymore, but we have people who openly violate the Lord's direction for their own gain. Tucker Carlson is one of those people. It is wrong to suggest or aid or incite or encourage someone to do violence to someone else. It is wrong to come up with reasons, as some of you have done on this channel or tried to do, why it was okay for a police officer to shoot Jacob Blake in the back. It's not okay. Well, you say there's a warrant out for his arrest. Oh, so let me take your statement to its logical conclusion. Does that mean that every person, including yourself, that has a warrant out for their arrest should be shot? Of course not. Should Jacob Blake have stopped for the cops? Yes, he should have. But when the action was quite obvious that he wasn't going to do so, shooting him in the back was not the best next action to take at all. If he gets into his car to see after his kids or whatever, wait. If he drives off, you know what? You can find his address and get him another time when it's most appropriate, with the appropriate search warrant and materials to carry out, but also call him in advance and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. Blake had no warning. He was shot in the back. And look, forget that situation. That's a pretty screwed up thing to do to somebody. Thank God he's alive, although he's not doing well, as I understand it. I hope he gets better. But for Tucker Carlson to take this entire situation and not call for a better place in our society, that's wrong. Now, will he lose sponsors over it? I hope so. I certainly do. But what will happen is some unknown right-wing investor will come in, pour some more money into his coffers, and he'll be fine with it. Meanwhile, those people who speak voices, who call for us to be as one together, we're not so popular. But I've decided I'm going to take on Tucker. I remained silent long enough because he's not right. He's got to be called out. he's got to stop. And I'm not saying stop like, well, I'm going to stop him like that, you know. No. I simply am lending my voice as a counter voice. That is what I'm doing. I'm making that 1,000,000,000% clear. He must stop. I'm not turning away from sports or anything else, but I'm adding my voice to calling him out. And I'm going to do so in a very surgically precise way. What Tucker is saying and doing is wrong. You do not incite violence. You do not split people racially. And I want to add something else on that too. We're not racially divided. Look at how many people are in different marriages of all types of combinations. It's to the point where intercolor marriages, as I prefer to call them, are as common as drinking water. You cannot have that in a racially divided society. But we do have racism that is practiced among people. And it's not called out, and it must be. We have people acting out. I don't know if they're doing drugs when they act out and are presented on video as doing so or what, but there's clearly a problem with the Amy Coopers of the world and the Karens, as they call them. Someone asked me, what happened to our society? How did we get to this point? Well, I'll tell you. What happened was that at one point we were truly not just one nation under God, but we were a country where a single earner could make enough money to feed, unfortunately, just his family. And I say unfortunately because far more often than anyone else, it was a white man that got jobs that allowed that. But the bottom line was the capability from one person, or even a black person like my father, and who was later augmented by my mother's job with United Airlines, was able to not only feed an entire family, but to do exceptionally well. Two cars, garage, big backyard, the whole 9 yards. But what happened between the 60s, when I was born in 62, and now goes like this. Multinational corporations expanded market economies around the world and essentially created competitors for the United States. Most notably, Japan, with its international miracle, otherwise known as, back then, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, which subsidized its steel and automobile industries to dump cars and steel in the United States for sale at prices below their production costs. We didn't take note of that and say, hey, maybe we should have a more coordinated, across the board way of subsidizing our key industries and maintaining employment at beyond living wage levels, even as the employment ranks diversified. What we got instead was this. We had wages in manufacturing cut down. We had even service job wages cutting down as those companies sought greener pastures. First, they went from snow belt to sun belt, and then they went from sun belt to the internationals, different countries. And the emergence of the internet made being anywhere to do business much easier. Cheaper pastures someplace else, go get them. And that's what happened. But our government never once adopted a concerted effort, doesn't matter if it was Democrat or Republican, to finance our industries in the same way that our market competitors finance theirs. There are, of all the industrial economies in the world, the two that represent the nations that are the most diverse, the United States and the United Kingdom, also happen to be the ones that have social welfare programs where the problem is thought of as being a black problem. In other words, it's somebody else's problem. So therefore, what we don't get is what we have in Korea or Japan, for example. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it is there. A more uniform system of taking care of each other. Instead, we call, some of us call for something better, somebody else ignorantly calls it socialist, forgetting for the moment that for all practical purposes, the United States is already socialist. And if you argue otherwise and say that we're capitalist, you'll prove that you're beyond stupid. Learn the difference between the existence of the price mechanism at various aspects of our society and unfettered capitalism. We do not have unfettered capitalism, but we do use the price mechanism. What is the price mechanism? It's simply allocating goods based on how much they cost and how much you're willing to pay for them. But all that is perturbated by the existence of subsidies, tax breaks, and well, you get the idea. The involvement of government. Are you paying attention? So what happened, pure and simple, was that our wage levels, which at one point consistently increased, stopped doing that roughly 27 years ago, but our costs didn't. And we never adjusted for it. Meanwhile, our economy became more diverse and more racially diverse. And participation rates among race and sex improved dramatically. But we have less and less and less dollars per person. And we have new people coming into the economy, and we have the internet, and we have the presentation of our best lives on social media so that everybody else thinks that somebody else is doing better than them. And so they're not happy. And the people that want you to think that they're doing better than they really are fake happy. And then on all of this, we have the introduction, yes, of different ways of belief and people who don't believe in God at all. And so even though people who choose to believe that in a number of cases have a very powerful moral grounding of their own, the simple fact, you have others who don't. And so you have a loosey-goosey idea of what is moral. And so we're less inclined to help our fellow person. We have opened the door to evil. We have opened the door to the devil. And we haven't worked to shut the door. You understand what I'm saying? We have not worked to shut the door. That should be our first priority. So if you understand what I'm saying, you agree that this is a problem that's beyond party. But the simple fact of the matter is that you have one party, the Republican Party, that is acting in a way or has allowed itself to be pulled to act in a way that is evil. Each and every person, from Ted Cruz to Lindsey Graham to Nikki Haley, and I can go on, that is active right now in the party, in some cases speaking at the convention, came out and denounced Donald Trump in ways that are so right on and yet so completely insulting that you'd have to turn around and say, well, what did they give up to still be active now? I'll leave the answer to that question for you for now. But the simple fact of the matter is this. Our society, with this pandemic now, is in trouble that government can get us out of. And while we wrestle with that problem, what we've had happen, as we've had this society which has caused its income levels to stop growing, is white males taking jobs with law enforcement that at another time, would have pushed them to manufacturing. Remember I was talking about the ability to get a job that feeds your whole family? Well, you can do that in law enforcement. You become a police officer. Good news. Police officers now are also women. They're doing a fantastic job. But the simple fact of the matter is they're also overwhelmingly white. So what do you have? You have the worst tableau there could be in our society. White police officers, still predominantly male, in many cases acting like they're hunting after poor blacks and blacks in general, regardless of income. How many times have you seen videos? Or if you're black, been in a situation where someone in law enforcement felt that they had the right to put their hands on you or treat you in a way that was inappropriate or less than respectful. And yet you get to see that same person on video being nice to someone white and differential. You can even see it today with Kenosha, Wisconsin police throwing water bottles at white males with AK-47s who are said to be right-wing militia. Come on. So I'm wondering, hey, are those right-wing militia dudes also part of the police force, but they're just plain clothes, you know? And no one knows it except them and a few other people? That's wrong. But it kind of looks like it. The people that have chosen to take those jobs did so because they couldn't make money anyplace else. They didn't have the talent or skill to go into tech or create their own businesses. They didn't have the confidence either. They're scared. And rightly so. Some of them would rather go in that direction than to, say, go and work in a coal mine because, well, it's dangerous. And even the cases where it's not, there are people trying to push coal industry jobs out of the way rather than do what I call the Sputnik idea and refurbish that industry to make it as close to zero emissions as possible. We went from a Star Trek society where we talked about the application of technology to change the environment and improve our lives, terraforming, to a society today where people want to tell you that something is bad. They don't care that you lose your livelihood, just that they get what they think is right. That's bad. And it divides the country. No, we need a reset. And we do need to get back to one nation under God. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to modify it by this. I don't care who you call your God. That's not my point. But I do care that you have a solid moral grounding, and I do care that you don't talk like Tucker Carlson. God bless you.